Hi. I have been selling my art online for a little while now, and I just reached my 80th sale on Etsy. So
Woohoo!
I've definitely learned some things so far. So today I kind of wanted to share with you guys some things I think you should know before you get started selling your art online. So the first thing I think you should know is figure out whether or not your art is ready for selling online. And basically what I mean by that is just make sure that your art skills are at a level and you're producing art that people will want to buy. So, and I say this as somebody who definitely did not wait until I was ready for my art to be sold. And to kind of prove that to you, let me show you my original art prints that I was trying to sell on Etsy. I'll show you a picture on screen of what that was. So I basically just found an art print that I thought looked the best at the time for my art skills, and that's what I went with. And I don't think I sold a single one of those. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're ready for selling your art online. Make sure that your art is at a place where you think that there's a market for it, that people will buy it. And I don't say that to discourage you or anything like that. I just say that to hopefully save you time and money, because I made that mistake. I did that, and yeah, I wish I had waited until I felt like my art was at a point where people would have actually wanted to buy it. If you don't feel like you can adequately look at your art with an unbiased opinion and determine if it's ready, start asking friends or family, people that you trust, and just show them your artwork and ask them if they think that it's worth putting up for sale. Okay. So the second thing that I think you should know before you start your art shop is to decide what platform you want to run your art through. I think there's a couple different options here, and I think they all have kind of their pros and cons. I have seen artists run their stores through Squarespace or like their own website. I've seen artists run their stores through places like Etsy, where basically the site itself is full of stores that you can run your art shop through. And then I've also seen people run their stores through a print-on-demand service, kind of like a InPrint or Redbubble. So a print-on-demand service is basically where you upload your photos. It's very easy to do. You upload your photos and the artwork that you want to sell, and then that's pretty much all you have to do. I think there's a lot more marketing involved with that side of selling on an art store, because you're pushing people to your store. With a place like Etsy, because Etsy has a customer base already, you basically just need the search engine of Etsy to show your listings, which I think is a little bit easier than some of these other options if you have a very small social media following or no following at all. I have used InPrint and Etsy, so I know the most about those. I know a little bit about running a shop through your own website. I know very little. So when it comes to running your own website, that's something I would like to do eventually, but I think you really have to have a kind of a customer base to start with to be really successful running your art store through your own website. It's just up to you, whichever one you want to do. I recommend probably doing Etsy or a print-on-demand service to start with, just because a lot of times I think those are easier to get sales from, versus I think Etsy is probably the easiest. The con with Etsy is obviously going to be seller fees, and sometimes Etsy can kind of be crappy to their stores, and that is definitely a con. But yeah, just do your research, figure out which one works for you. For me personally, I still currently use Etsy, mostly because I feel like I don't have a large enough following yet to really warrant running my own website at the moment. Another thing I think you should know before you start selling your art online is to know your prices and price yourself fairly. Pricing yourself fairly is, I say that not just for you, but for other artists in the community, because if you are underselling your art just to sell it, you're really, not only are you leaving money on the table, but you're also telling those customers that they should also undervalue the work of the artist who are charging more. So because if you have one person highly underselling their art, people are going to think that it's not worth it. I remember when I started out, I was selling, basically making zero profit, sometimes losing money on sales, just because I was underselling so much because I didn't think that my art was worth it. And again, that's goes back to the first point that I made, that you really want to make sure that your art is ready for selling. That way you can charge fairly for it. As far as pricing, there's a ladybug. Pricing guides out there. I feel like it's gonna vary so much based on your niche and what you're trying to sell. So I'm not gonna give like a specific, here's what you should price everything right here in this video. My best advice for trying to figure out what art, like how much to sell your art for, is to look at other artists that you are following on social media and see if they have an art shop and kind of see what their prices are. That way you can get an idea of what the market price looks like. So my next tip is going to be to figure out your shipping. So shipping is a nightmare for me personally. When I got started on Etsy, Etsy figures out a lot of the shipping for you if you decide to go through their platform. But one thing that I had seen a lot of other artists do is offer free shipping for their store. And what they would do is include the cost of shipping in the price of their products. So that's what I was doing. And at the time, I was offering both domestic and international shipping. And I got my first international order and I was so excited. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And then I went to the post office and it cost, I think, like 4 times the amount from the product itself. So I lost a ton of money that way, obviously. That was my first and last international order. I can set it up to where I offer like shipping for international orders only, make people pay 4 times the amount that an item actually cost in shipping. Like, it just doesn't sit right with my soul. So I'm not doing that. I just currently just don't offer it. That's why I say, really, you want to know and figure out your shipping first, so you don't run into what I ran into, where you're paying way too much for shipping an order. As far as costs with shipping, for prints, which is typically prints and stickers, is pretty much all I currently sell. Obviously you have the postage stamp, any kind of envelopes. I've actually switched. So I used to use like bubble mailers, but I recently just switched to like regular envelopes, which work really well. I like these because I don't have to stay at the post office all the time. I can literally just ship them out. I do those for the very small art prints. And yeah, it works really well. Also, if you have if you want to package them with either, I think they're called cello bags, just to keep your art prints safe, that's what I do, just to kind of give you an idea, and just think about that before you get started. If you use a print-on-demand service, you don't really have to worry about shipping, because again, that company is going to basically handle everything for you. Yeah, otherwise, that's something to look out for. My final thing that I think you should know before you start selling your art online is how you want to do get your stock. You can either do art prints or stickers or whatever you want to do. Figure out what makes more sense for you financially and just for your peace of mind. Just print from home and print out all of your art prints yourself. Or if you want to go through a company like Moo or I don't know, somebody else, just think about who you want to use and start looking at prices and go ahead and get that product before you start. I would recommend going very lightly here, because especially if you're just starting out, I would hate for you to like order all of these prints and they not sell. So just keep that in mind. Be careful when you're ordering stuff. Try not to do, unless you know for a fact that you're going to sell like 100 art prints of something, I wouldn't recommend like purchasing that many if you go through a company. I would start out with maybe like 10 to 15 per artwork and just see how it goes. That way you're not wasting all of your money on an art print that just ends up not doing well and spending all your money. Hey guys, something went wrong with my audio during this little last segment, so I'm just going to talk on voiceover here. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys and gave you some ideas before you get started selling your art online. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.